Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of the Oregon Coast Art Talks. My name is Tom Webb. I am the director of the Newport Visual Arts Center for the Oregon Coast Council for the Arts. I am coming to you from the Runyon Gallery at the VAC. And with me today are two artists from their studios in Portland, Sean Healy and John Ryczek. We are here to talk about John L. Ryczek's latest show, which opened last Saturday at the Visual Arts Center, Concealment and Revelation. This show will be up through May 29th, and our current gallery hours are Wednesdays and Saturdays from noon to 4 p.m. So welcome, John and Sean. So glad to have you on the Art Talk series.
Thanks, Tom. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
All right. So we're going to get into it, and Sean is going to lead the interview with John and his work. You'll be seeing images of the gallery itself, and specific works come up as they're talking. And I want to give a quick introduction to both John and Sean before we get started, and then I'm going to hand things over to Sean. Well, we're super excited to have John Ryczek here with us. John is currently residing in Portland and was born in 1970 in Oak Park, Illinois. He holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the University of Illinois at Chicago, and his work has been displayed at the Portland Art Museum, the Center on Contemporary Art in Seattle, the Froelich Gallery, the Art Gym at Marylhurst University, the Basil Hallward Gallery, and various alternative spaces in Portland. His work has been featured in the Seattle Times, the Oregonian, Willamette Week, and the Oregon Review of Arts. So we're very excited to have John's work here. It's a very unique exhibition of work from 3 different series titled Glue Field, Relief, and Mixed Media. So welcome, John. Now for Mr. Sean Healy, growing up in a small community on the edge of the Adirondack Park, Sean cultivated a love of drawing that compelled him to pursue a career in art. After art school, Sean moved to Portland to continue his creative endeavors. His studio work has been included in 2 Oregon biennials, numerous solo shows at the Elizabeth Leach Gallery, the Betty Moody Gallery in Houston, Texas, and is part of a collaborative effort with Joe Thurston for an exhibit in Berlin, Germany. His work has been featured in many national and international group shows. His public work has been awarded recognition from the American for the Arts and from the General Service Administrative Branch of the United States government. Sean currently lives on an island with his wife and dog. So coming to us somewhat live is Sean with his wife and from his island with his wife and dog. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Tom. John, Mr. Ryczek.
Yeah.
To set this up, you and I have known each other for, we figured this out, 25 years.
Yeah.
And here we are. Who would have thought it? Not me.
Yeah. No, not me either.
Let me start by saying I'm very, very impressed by your show. And I am excited to dive in and talk about it. So are you ready?
Yeah, I'm going to try real hard to look at you and not look at myself on here.
I have seen these works in your studio throughout the years and have appreciated them, but I found a newfound appreciation walking into a gallery space, a beautiful gallery space at that, and seeing these works all together on nice white walls. I really think that they are very impressive and you should be proud. I wanted to start by talking to you about your meticulous paintings. I'd like to start with 2 pieces that I believe are a diptych called Heroic Hard-On Father and Heroic Hard-On Son. Can you tell me a little bit about the titles, the process of your painting? Can you explain a little bit about those pieces?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So they're autobiographical. The image, so the relief, right? So there's a relief of Superman on the father and a relief of Captain America on the son. And the father image comes from a Superman image from 1940, which is the year that my dad was born. And the Captain America comes from the 70s. Not I was born in 1970. It comes from 1974, close enough. And then the patterns that are painted over them are inspired by wallpaper from each of those time periods. And the title itself actually comes from a story. So my dad and I, my dad's not an artist. He's really good with his hands and really crafty and good at building things and fixing things, but not so much at drawing or painting or anything. And so he and I were talking, and we'd had a few adult beverages, and he knew that the series I was working on, I was including superheroes. And he's like, you know what, John, what you need is superheroes with hard-ons. And well, first of all, it was a really funny idea. And so I actually thought about trying to incorporate that. And I realized that it's more about the language of it than the imagery. So ultimately, when I was trying to come up with a title for those pieces, I just kept on going back to that conversation with my pop. And that's what I came up with. And Superman and Captain America are both like very patriotic heroes. Both red, white, and blue are in their costumes, and they both are very symbolic. And I just thought that they were good, like sort of emblems for my father and I.
Yeah, superheroes crop up in your work quite a bit.
Yes.
Can you explain to me what that, what the interest is there? And
well, I mean, as a kid, essentially it was like sort of the first art form I was introduced to, really. And I really enjoyed comics as a little kid, reading them. And, I had a box, a shoe box that was full of them at all times. And I don't know, it just sort of imprinted on me to the point where when I was in college, I was sort of embarrassed by the concept of using those images, even though I'd been really like sort of inspired by them. And so when I started working independently after college, they just keep on coming back in. Early on, a lot of my work was really centered on them, and I feel like I've sort of moved past that, but they still keep on popping up.
We went to college around the same time. Was postmodernism a big movement while you were in art school? The repurposing of images?
Yeah. The art school I went to was pretty conceptual. It was not a traditional, like I took drawing classes and painting classes and, drawing from the figure and still life and stuff like that. And I always liked drawing from the figure or painting the figure. But it was a lot of like really, like I took a sculpture class and I was expecting that I was going to be like doing ceramic or something. It was all conceptual. The professor, Tony Tassett, he's a pretty well-known, I think, international artist.
Yeah.
And he, we talked a lot about art concepts and repurposing things and taking, art is a language and it's like kind of like this, it builds on itself. And so playing with the things that came before it.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to also, in that same series of paintings, you have another diptych, Age of Foolish Passion, Amity, and Age of Foolish Passion, Umbrage.
Yes.
Can you explain to me what's going on there?
Well, those are images of Bonnie and Clyde. Both of them are Bonnie and Clyde, and one of them, they're like embracing each other, and that's the Amity. And the Umbrage, she's holding a shotgun to him. And again, I tried to find wallpaper of that time period. and that one was more inspired by wallpaper I found. I don't think I specifically found a wallpaper that I was duplicating.
Yeah. So these paintings that we've been talking about, these four paintings that we've been talking about, they are an interesting, they have both a flatness and a depth to them. I think I should explain what is happening. So you have the characters are physically cut out from the paintings themselves, or or they are added onto the painting surface itself. And then you go in with this very flat wallpaper imagery that you hand paint. It may look printed, but this is like, how long do one of these take you to make?
They take a while. They're very meticulous. Usually, I would say 6 months to a year and a half. The painting behind me, if you can see it, I've been working on that for like 2 years, which is a little bit bigger than the ones that I'm showing in the gallery.
And that's because you keep going back and you keep perfecting the marks that you made before.
Yeah, I want it's clean, and I'm as I'm getting older, I'm finding myself more meticulous than I used to be, and I just want really clean lines. I want as few distractions as possible. It's impossible to totally remove the line, but I'm trying to. I want it from afar to not look like paint.
You want it to be as completely flat and as manufactured as, and I think you achieve it. And do you paint the edges as well of your paintings, or?
Yeah, I usually choose one of the colors that I think is strongest. There have been times when I've actually painted the pattern over this side, which is like almost like wrapping paper.
Yeah.
So I've played with that too.
Yeah. And I mean, I find these pieces really fascinating. I always have. And I haven't asked you this question before, so this is a curveball.
Ooh.
Do you consciously make a decision whether a figure will be recessed or excessed? Do you know what I mean? Do you make a conscious decision where that depth is coming from?
Well, I try, if there are multiple figures, what I try to do is try to determine like so if the two figures are overlapped, right? You want one's got to show out more than the other, and that informs the one that's underneath it. If that
sure.
Makes sense, right? Yeah. So at times I'll go 2 layers, and so like I think the Bonnie and Clyde piece is The Age of Foolish Passion. One of the she is 2 layers while he is only 1 layer.
And that was an intentional to bring her
to try to pull out the image more. So that the whole thing reads.
Yeah, I just find them really beautiful in a way that they're both flat, and yet when you catch them at the right angle and they create a shadow, and I mean, I could see a viewer not realizing that there's an image in some of these until the shadow catches it at just the right angle. It's subtle sometimes, Yeah,
that's the thing that I'm kind of going for, really, is this concept that like the painting can be on the wall, and as the light changes throughout the day, the image reveals itself in different ways.
And tell me about why wallpaper? What does it have to do with the, why are you recreating these rooms? What are you?
Well, I was fascinated by this book, At Home, by Bill Bryson, and in the book, I mean, it's nonfiction, and what he does is he goes through the history of every room that we live in, there's a chapter on stairs, there's a chapter on living rooms, a chapter on kitchens, and how we as humans how that has evolved and how that has changed. And some of it's been through technology or social change or materials and technology. All of those things have contributed to how we live. And so I've been very fascinated by like rooms and this idea that like like the relief pieces, the paintings, that with the wallpaper, like we could just like pull them right off the wall of a given. Like one of my thoughts was that I would name each of the pieces for a different room, you know, like kitchen, bedroom.
Yeah.
I didn't go that way. I decided the title should be more in the content of the images that are sort of hidden.
Yeah.
And this idea that walls, you know, like what have these walls seen? Like how there's like a history imprinted in space, and that when we're not there, like when we leave, like I don't know. I love history, and I love this idea of like things are imprinted in there.
You're almost taking it's almost like you're taking a relic of some kind of from memory or something, you know. It's like you're almost taking it with you. It's like you're taking these things that you've been passionate about, comics and characters, you know, popular culture that you hear about, and you're also you're placing them in a certain time frame almost, and you're taking that with you. It's almost, you know, it's I wanted to move on and talk more. I want to talk about your other work, because within the show you have, you know, you don't just have these beautiful meticulous paintings, but you also have your beautiful drawings, and then you have some looser, almost gestural, expressionistic work done with unusual material. So I want to make sure I hit on all of those.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you. I'm going to move on to a piece that kind of bridges your drawing and painting, called Expansion of Everyday Life.
Right.
The image of this piece is of, now remind me, is it 4 women marching? And their dresses are patterned. Are those patterns based upon wallpaper as well?
Yeah, inspired by, not so much specific. Yeah.
What
more stencil, you know, like there are these books from the 70s especially that I really like. They're stencil books, so they're like, you know, decorate your home, or you know, buy your antique furniture and decorate it.
Yeah.
So a lot of those are taken in that particular piece. Those are taken.
Yeah, because you're almost doing the same thing that you're doing with your imagery. You're almost reconstituting something that could almost be considered a lower art form, right? Like, you know, comics were, not so much anymore, but like what comics maybe once were, like not considered like a high fine art form, and you're elevating it to a higher art form. Oh, you know, like wallpaper and stenciling.
Right. Yeah. And some of my materials too, you know, like construction. I mean, none of the pieces in this show are, but I've used construction paper in the past, and glue, and, you know, plywood, you know, just latex house paint, you know, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like art at hand, right? It's the Italians called it, I think, and we can edit this out if I get it wrong, but art, basically, I can't, but basically, like, they had a movement in Italy where they would just take the materials at hand and make art forms from it. And I'm inspired by that too. So that's what's, you know, something that's drawn me to your work is this, you know, you were taking common materials and creating uncommon creations through them.
And there's even like a level of, like, so I cleaned out my studio and I pulled out all the stuff, and a few things which I thought were done or not very good or whatever. I was like, oh, I could maybe do something like that. And so, like, I made a pile of stuff that is not done, but I don't think it's good, but I see potential in it, you know? So kind of like recycle it and see what else I can do with it.
Yeah, totally.
And going back to what you're saying is that, like, so I always work in this really meticulous way, those pattern, the paintings with the inspired by wallpaper on the reliefs. But I work in different modes. So I always have a few different things that I'm working on, because I find that when I'm doing the paintings, they're so meticulous. It's just, mundane to a point, in the sense that it's just, it's like fill in the blank. I'm just,
Yeah. You're
the
clocking hours.
idea is big, but the actual act of doing so, and I enjoy it. I'm not saying I don't, but sometimes I need that just a more like immediate satisfaction of just
palate cleanser, right?
Yeah, just to do something else. And
do you find
so it's kind of like it balances my studio practice?
Do you get satisfaction out of the meticulous? I mean, you obviously do, because I know I do. Like the sort of, I call it the Zen quality of the making of the work, where it's
for
lose
sure.
yourself, and then, or like mowing a lawn, you can see the progress. Every time you go down, you see a little bit more.
Just zone out, listen to podcasts, listen to music, and just go.
And lose a couple of hours in the studio. Nothing better.
For sure.
I also really wanted to talk about your drawing. Do your drawing? Well, let's talk about two in particular, and then we can get more into your drawings maybe a little bit.
Sure.
There's two I want to talk about, and I want to talk about titles. I want to talk about a little bit about the imagery. I want to hear your thoughts on them. The two pieces. First one is called Magic City.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually another one of your paintings, isn't it?
Well, no, White City is my. Oh no, Magic City is a painting. Yes.
Magic City is a painting.
Yes.
What is that painting?
So, well, and they're both inspired kind of by the same thing, in that I also have been very interested in the 1893 World's Fair, the Columbia Exposition in Chicago. I'm from Chicago. And there was a couple names for the, other than its formal name of the Columbia Exposition. So I think it was celebrating, I don't know, like 400 years of Columbus arriving in America. It was called often the White City because it was all bleached out and like white.
The exposition.
So they built this essential like city. And then it was also sometimes referred to as the Magic City. And it all comes from, I found the book. Somebody was asking me about it. So this book I found when I first moved to Portland in like 94, 95. It says Magic City. And this whole book is just images from the World's Fair, black and white photos. And I just found it really inspiring. And so the one image, Magic City, is a relief image of Harry Houdini, who performed at the World's Fair that year. And then the White City is an image. It says "Welcome to Lapland" on the stand. And so as part of the World's Fair, they had different like cultures and countries represent, like from around the world. Like they had like different like places you could go, and you could go check out France. They had a little France exhibit and whatnot. And so the Laplands, I think, is a section of like Norway or something. And so that is an actual drawing of those people at the World's Fair. And then I whited out the whole background because I have much more interest in the figures than I do background.
Yeah. And so there was a book based on that, Devil in the White City.
Devil in the White City, yes, that's right. And that was also really inspiring because I made all these connections between Chicago. Well, just Chicago, that's where I grew up. The area where the World's Fair took place is an area of Chicago I'm familiar with. The Museum of Science and Industry is the only remaining building from the World's Fair. And the World's Fair, and like, for example, that was the first Ferris wheel ever was at that World's Fair. I think the first cornflakes were at that World's Fair. Yeah. There's all these different, I think Thomas Edison had a big exhibit there as well, electricity. It just it really kind of resonated with me. And the images from that book I showed earlier, I still tap into. and look for inspiration.
I feel like post-COVID, we should have another World's Fair. Right?
Yeah.
Why has that idea gone away?
Yeah, I don't know. Do they even happen? I mean, like county fairs happen.
Yeah, I have
but those aren't very interesting.
So what takes longer, your drawings or the paintings? Do your drawings take as long as your wallpaper paintings?
No.
Can I call them wallpaper paintings? Is that
sure?
Okay?
You call them wallpaper paintings.
Okay.
You call them relief paintings.
Relief paintings. I'll call them relief paintings.
Yeah. The relief paintings take
way
much longer in general.
Yeah.
Because there's just, I mean, before you even start painting, there's a process, right? You know, cutting out the balsa wood and gluing it down and all that.
Sure. Yeah, because your drawings are so rich. Like your darks are really nice. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I do spend a lot of time on them, considering some of the earlier ones were the ones that were mixed with glue. Those were, I guess, studies, if you will. They were done much quicker.
Yeah.
And then I really liked the quality of the drawing on the wood and what you were talking about, so I've since really stepped it up, and like I'm working on a big drawing right now as well as the painting behind.
Good. Yeah. I also want to give your glue pieces equal footing. So the glue pieces are just, correct me if they're numbered, correct? It's glue pieces. Which one would you like to talk about? Because those are fun pieces, and you know, they're all just, they're different from your other work, yet in the context of the show itself, I have to say, holds together really well, considering that there's really three very different bodies of work going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, knowing your work, I was unsure as to how they would, you know, cohesively look together, but they, you know, there's something about your palette, or there's just something that they all work. And I also credit Tom with his beautiful hang, but the show itself just is a very tight show. So tell me about the process of your glue paintings. You don't have, you know, you don't have to be specific about any of them, but
well, it really came out of, it was sort of like the ultimate like opposite of what I was doing with these meticulous paintings, because they're quick, right? I mean, they're quick in the sense that you get one shot at a pour, right? And that's like a mark, right? And then you have to wait 24 hours before it dries to then make another mark, right?
Yeah.
And there was something really, really pleasing about it, because I would pour, and then I would come back, you know, in a few hours to see how it's forming or what shape it's taking, because you only have so much control. And then then I would say, oh, well, this is partially dry. So what would happen if I poured a different color, you know, on this section or that section, or I'm going to wait until tomorrow when it's totally dry. And then, so it was always like kind of very immediate, you know, like I'm gonna just kind of start with, I mean, really my only idea was that, like, I wanted to be reflective of like abstract expressionist painting.
Yeah. Yeah. And they are.
And the idea also, I also wanted the wood itself, the pattern of the wood to be a part of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's again is hitting on this idea of taking common materials, like, you know, is it Elmer's glue that you use, or various kinds?
Yeah. So all of those are, there's no dye in any of the glue. It's all glue right off the shelf. And there's an Elmer's, like there's just like Elmer's glue, carpentry glue, which is like yellow. And then there was a dark carpentry glue, I guess for like furniture. And there was actually two different shades of the dark carpentry glue. There's one that was really dark, which they don't make anymore. And then I found an off-brand. I don't remember the name of it, but there's an orange. So I've got, those are my, I got 2 browns, a yellow and an orange, and then just the color of the natural wood to play with. So I like that challenge, you know, I like limits to what you can do and then just try to make something from it.
Yeah, setting up the parameters, kind of like you're doing with your paintings too, right? You're setting up this parameter of, you're trying to make it as manufactured looking as possible, but still do it with, how big of a brush are you using?
Small. My friend Steve Jones said that that should be part of, right next to the paintings, I should display the brush.
Not a bad idea.
Because it's pretty small. Now with the bigger areas, I definitely go in with a bigger brush because it's just, you know, but for the meticulous part, I mean, there's only one way to do it, and that's with a small brush. I'm sorry, I was trying to show, because you asked me about which glue image, and I can't remember the numbers of them. So I was trying to look it up.
No, that's okay. I kind of put you on the spot there.
Yeah, sorry.
Johnny, tell me about some of your inspirations. Who are your inspirations from? Could be, from the comics.
Yeah, I mean, definitely comic book artists like Jack Kirby and Steranko and Steve Ditko. And then when I was collecting, like artists like John Byrne and Frank Miller were certainly huge influences of mine early on. Then when I got into actually painting, Jackson Pollock, and there's a German artist named Max Beckmann, who I liked a lot. Edward Hopper, which is kind of ironic because my work is nothing like Edward Hopper's, and he does landscapes, and I pretty much stay away from landscapes. Mm-hmm. But I really I like his.
You just appreciate the work.
Yeah. I do, yeah. I just really appreciate it and kind of inspired by.
And you still appreciate comics.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I appreciate the older ones, like from the 60s and 70s more than I do. I mean, I like comic books. Yeah. But as far as like, my favorite artists are all back from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, the iconic Jack Kirby type figures that those of us of a certain age think about when we think about Captain America, or at least I, because I'm your age too. I think about the Jack Kirby Captain America,
Yeah, for sure.
Well, John,
can I chime in for a second? Yeah, I was just going to say a little bit about the iconic images in the show. I love the historical aspects to many of them. Also, there's a lot of very athletic figures, whether it's Jackie Robinson as a football player, actually, or and another football player, and the bowler. Tell me a little bit about the illustration of the bowler.
So I love looking at old photos. And I'm very much interested in the figure. I have very little interest in landscapes or drawing houses or any of that kind of stuff. And when I saw that picture of that guy, he just has this like air of confidence about him and a style. And I just thought, man, if I can try to get that if I can draw that and capture that. And so I tried it, and I think I did an okay job. I think it looks like him, and he had like a bravado about him, that character.
Yeah, there's a certain energy to him, intensity that is really crazy when you look more into it.
And then I think that's what you were tapping into there, Tom, about I do like, again, I like the figure, and I do like the action, but at the same time, then like a piece like Skylab is very meditative and still, and the Country Doctor as well, both of those are very still images.
Yeah. So John, has this type of collection been exhibited for before, where you have elements from these 3 different series? Or,
no.
Yeah.
No. So this is the first, yeah. Which is why I feel like it's such a, it looks so good on the walls, you know.
I think we intentionally didn't want to put this series on this wall and this series on that wall, and and that I think that direction came from you and Sean a bit. So it's an interesting dynamic walking around the gallery. Talk to me a little bit more about how you feel about this particular collection of work as a whole. You know, I kind of called it a survey of your work over the past 2 decades. We didn't want to go call it a retrospective, but it really is a strong survey of your work. But I know there's lots of work that you've probably created as well that is not in your possession now or what have you. So, but yeah, just talk to me about the whole, you know, the collection, if you will, that is in the exhibit.
It was really fun to kind of go through all my work, and because as big as the gallery space is, it was not big enough for me to put everything in. So I got to go through and really pick out the things that I'm proud of and that I like and I think that other people like. I mean, I've had people in my gallery space before, or my studio space. I've had people in my studio before, and so I've gotten some feedback, and so I had an idea of what I felt like were the stronger pieces, and the pieces I'm more proud of. But it was really a lot of fun at the opening, just seeing people's response to work, like the glue pieces, which I hadn't presented in a long time. I think I was in a group show, and one of a different glue piece I presented. But I don't think any of those pieces that are at the Runyon Gallery have ever been shown before.
That's extra special.
Yeah,
absolutely. So the title is Concealment and Revelation, which kind of pulled from the first line on your website. So I can really see how that makes sense in your work here. A lot of it is a lot like the relief work, and even the historical aspects of the drawings are the essence. You know, there's a bit of a concealment of what's behind some of the works, and then but the more you learn about it, you know, then comes the revelation. That's probably a simple way of putting it. But how do you approach that term, that combination of words, concealment and revelation?
When I was in college is when I started hiding, for lack of a better word, images within. I guess I just wanted to challenge the viewer, and I wanted the audience to kind of work for it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like, you know, having titles that reveal and or conceal maybe what the intent is, or the ideas that are in the images. I don't know.
I also think of, sorry, Tom.
Go ahead, Charles.
Just to jump in, I also think of that, you know, conceal and reveal as your process of those paintings as well, because they do that. You know,
that's true.
They conceal I've had many experiences where that image pops out only when the light hits it correctly. So reflective of those pieces as well. Right,
and within that as you said, within that process of, like, you know, what for the relief pieces, like how do I because I know I'm concealing the image because I'm painting over it, right? So but how do I reveal it, right? How can I get the audience to see the figures within?
Right.
For sure.
Well,
John, do you want to ask any more questions? Do you want me to?
Go ahead, Tom, if you've got.
No, I think I think we could kind of wrap up, or you know, if you had any final thoughts. I mean, we can edit this part out. So,
yeah,
but any final thoughts, John, or questions?
No, I just want to thank both of you guys. This was great. I really appreciate it. Sean, I always appreciate you and your input, and you are inspiring to me, your work. And just looking at that bird's nest behind you, it's beautiful.
Well, John, you know, I've told this to Tom. I've told this to anybody who will listen. Your studio dedication is unparalleled. You know, you go down, you put the work in.
Try.
It's been you've been doing it for many years now, as we both have, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm proud of you, buddy. You're doing
Thank
good.
you.
Stop cheating in fantasy basketball.
And Tom, I want to thank you. You did a great job of hanging, and the space is beautiful. And thanks for having the faith in me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tom. Yeah, Tom. Well done.
Thank you. It was fun to and a challenge a bit to look at how we present these 3 different series. And I liked spacing out. We did a lot more spacing out of multiple works. Along the wall, instead of just, you know, everything equally spaced and all that. It is the feedback I've got is that people are very interested in it. I can tell that they're questioning what's going on with these 3 series, and it's, you know, we've had lots of different types of shows, but we haven't had a show exactly like this. So. Different mediums, different materials. Yeah, so I'm super excited. Let me just I'll do a little wrap up, and we can say goodbye to everyone. So thanks again, excuse me. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us for the latest edition of the Oregon Coast Art Talks. We have been here with Sean Healy and John Ryczek, talking about the current exhibit at the Runyon Gallery at the Visual Arts Center, Concealment and Revelation by John Ryczek. The exhibit will be up through May 29th, and the gallery is currently open Wednesdays and Saturdays, noon to 4 p.m. We hope to open more often, COVID permitting, but we will see how that goes. I want to remind you that this is coming through the Oregon Coast Council for the Arts, which manages the Newport Visual Arts Center, which is owned by the city of Newport. So we want to thank the city of Newport as well. If you would like to lend your support, you can, of course, go to the OCCA website and become a member. We also want to let people know that certain works from the show will be online and for sale. If you go to coastarts.org or do a Google search for John and the Runyon Gallery. I want to let you know that our next installment of the Oregon Coast Art Talks will be a discussion with Anna Fiedler, whose exhibit Incessant Pulse of the Future is upstairs in our upstairs gallery currently, and will also be running through May 29th. Anna will be talking with Holly Andre, who some of you may know. And again, I really want to start by thanking Sean, because Sean brought the idea of showing John's work to myself and to the gallery. And we talked with John, you know, a year and a half ago, maybe longer, about having an exhibit here. And then of course, COVID got in the way, pushed things back a year, but just super excited that it's happening, and that will be up for a good long 2 months. And so, yeah, come on down, everyone. Wednesdays and Saturdays, noon to 4 p.m. So thanks again, you guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Sarah.